You are listening to the Fresh Take Network.
What it is, what it do? Welcome to Fresh Take, Joshua. Adam, why am I with that? We got the almighty John Smith back here. Always, I should call him Almighty John Smith, the ratings booster. Because whenever we get John on, the ratings go right up through the roof from the podcast.
Let's get it.
And then we got super talented Alex Eskandarkhah, a.k.a. Dro, according to John. Privileged to have both y'all on here. I kind of wanted to, kind of do a circle back on stuff. I did want to kind of one day have you guys on to talk about, hoops and everything like that and going on with the playoffs and stuff. But I kind of, we're 2 months or so removed from George Floyd and everything, and kind of wanted to connect that. And also kind of this initiative that John's part of. I wanted to kind of talk about that, and Alex, have you kind of get a conversation with all that and where we kind of go into the fall with that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'll start with you, John, of this athlete correlation that you started. Kind of talk to me about like the start of that, and yeah.
We all got together. One of Sape's volleyball players, a really close friend of mine, Tyler Latuila. He gave me a call one day and asked if I wanted to speak at this meeting with with other athletes, and because he's known the work I've been doing for a very long time, stateside as well as in Canada, as far as civil justice work, civil rights work, and my ties to BLM. So he asked me to come speak to some of the athletes and just have a meeting, have a safe place for athletes of color to really kind of digest like everything that's going on with them in their respective sports and how schools are really treating them and dealing with them. So I came in and I spoke to a few other athletes that I had known. One being Naya, who played on the state volleyball team, Veronica Headley, as Jay, and my man Godey, and Veronica's fiance John. So we were just really in there having these talks and sharing our stories about like what has gone on and stuff that we don't really feel right about. And in Canada especially, I find that a lot of people don't really know the history as far as it goes in the stateside with civil rights, civil justice, and just like all of the things that have happened to people of color in America, in United States of America, not in Canada. So we just really had these really great conversations, and we decided to become a group so we can come up with this charter that we can send these prospective schools and possibly have chapters at every school, so people have a safe spot where we are represented when people are when we're taking these meetings, and can go in there and talk with these athletic departments, because these athletic departments that represent us have no people of color in them. So they're really making rules, and they're over policing the teams that have more athletes of color in them. And we're still getting judged unfairly for things that we have not done at all. So they asked me in the meeting, like, it was kind of funny because everybody's like sitting there like looking, and they're like, yeah, we're going to need a president. And everybody just kind of looks, and I see everybody's head like peer over to me. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fuck you guys. Yeah, I'll be the president. All right, I'm with it. And so we just kind of got started, and we've been having meetings, and we've been going to public events. We went to the Black Market the other day, which was awesome. It was great. It's something I've never seen in Canada. It's something that we regularly have stateside. So it's been great so far.
I think it's not a surprise to me that you're the president. I mean, even, following you just initially as, being the commentator on state basketball and watching you as an athlete, you're always someone on your Instagram. You weren't afraid to shy away from being political and talking about the issues. You weren't just like, hey, look at this game that LeBron had last night. It's one of the things, I found really early following you on social media. You were very active within the Black community or any community of, being on point of the issue. So it wasn't a surprise to me finding you as the president in charge of something like this.
Yeah, it was like it's a bit of extra responsibility that I didn't think that I was prepared for, because I've always just kind of gone about it my own way instead of having like, but being in a team has been a really nice sense as far as like people to delegate and stuff. Like I don't have to do it all alone. And we have guys like Tyler does so much work, and Goldie does so much work on the social media. V has been doing a lot of interviews and talking her truth and speaking her piece to on all of these platforms, and people's mad as shit at her about it. Mad as shit, and it's hilarious because it's all true. You can't
enlighten me on that a little bit more.
V had Veronica. She had this issue with Sate on where they didn't clear her to play volleyball because she had a concussion at the end of the season. She ended up playing summer volleyball at Sate the whole year. They have a professional league. It's called One Volleyball. And in this professional league, she had been playing the whole summer with Sate's athletic trainers being there. And they were there the whole time seeing her play volleyball. Then during the season, they're like, oh, you haven't been cleared to play. So they made her get cleared again, and she had gotten cleared, but they still wouldn't let her play. And then when she went to the office and she was upset about it, they spoke to her like she wasn't human. They came at her wrong. They badmouthed her. And this is V, who led the country in assists for volleyball, the whole country. And then suddenly, because she is now deemed as a problem, she's all Canadian volleyball players now coming off of the bench because she said that she didn't feel like she was being treated fairly. And like, if you know, like, I'm not very well versed in volleyball, but like seeing her stat line as well as her accolades, you know, she's one of the best players in the country. So for her to not be able to play, especially in her 5th year, and then to be treated so disrespectfully by people in the athletic department who were just so quickly to pave her off, but then treated the other girls who aren't Black a certain way, you know what I mean? It's really deemed to like, oh, okay, they're really disrespecting me because they think they can get over on me because I'm Black.
What has kind of been the overwhelming feeling you've gotten from other colleges with this being formed in the past few months? Have you got any like feedback from other colleges of it being formed, or just kind of like secondhand word of it?
It's kind of been like secondhand word. We're still trying to get more of a following. We're very small right now.
Yeah,
we're super small. So it's like, but we've been talking to people at other schools. We've been talking to the Black Coaches Union on the East Coast. So we had some conversations with them. My team had some conversations with them the other day. I wasn't a part of it. I was at work, but they had some conversations with them the other day, and just how to go forward and get our representation in these athletic departments. Like, I can only speak from my experiences and how when I did speak up against Sate, I got a call instantly from our athletic director. I didn't even know he had my phone number. Like, I didn't play at Sate last year, so I instantly got a call within.
This was the Black Lives Matter Instagram post?
This was the Black Lives Matter Instagram post where I said, hey, Sate, you're being real quiet right now. Mm-hmm. And my biggest issue with that was just because I've seen Sate hop on every other issue possible. You know what I mean? They stand with people for gay pride. They stand with trans community. You make noise for mental health. People that go around the classroom. We have like a whole event for it. But for some reason, when you hear that word, that Black and lives matter, there's suddenly an issue, and everybody in these positions of power stays quiet and they don't say anything. But there's a gang of Black your best team at your school is 90% Black. So it's like, you not speaking up for us while we represent you well. Seems to not make any sense. And I had a conversation with my coach about it as well. Mm-hmm. Just on the representation. Like, if Black athletes represent you, but you are unwilling to speak up for Black athletes, then why the fuck should they represent you at any time? Mm-hmm. Why should they continue to make you look good if you will not say? Because this is my feelings too. Like, you saying something on Black Lives Matter, or anybody just saying something like, yo, this is right, this is justified, or making a post, is the least amount of shit you could do. Is the least amount. So you just being there and just saying it, especially because a lot of people, like, I know my coach, for example, he has a lot of Trump supporters in his family, a lot of people who have issues with it. So him maybe taking that stance shows that he supports us versus supporting these, Trump thumping bigots.
Alex, you want to get in here and
Yeah,
thing?
absolutely. Two things. One, the conversation is so important because now, with these issues, you can no longer be nonpartisan. You have to choose a side. And, when you don't say anything, you've chosen a side, essentially. Even outside of sports, there's many organizations who have refused to take a stance on, the Black Lives Matter movement. And it shows exactly where they align. Even though they think it may align them as nonpartisan, it shows that your passiveness with everything that's going on shows where you stand. So, and then when you talk about, sport organizations and how, Black people, especially at state, state's got all these, these guys from the States, these guys from all these other places, all these Black guys that are helping them win. And, when it's a white guy coaching the team, nothing is said about it. Now, if there's a Black guy winning at this level with, Black players and stuff like this, it will become an issue really, really quickly. It's a double standard that goes on within the sports community. When you talk about the representation of coaches, athletic directors, and staff, when you talk about, when the success of a program is okay when there's Black guys here doing it, but then when it's over here and there's Black guys and there's a Black coach, there's a bit of a problem. It's because of that representation, and there's a disconnect, with I find in Alberta with winning programs and how you're winning, right? A lot of schools would like to win with, mainly Alberta kids, right? But, the times we're living in and the power of the internet allows you to get players from anywhere, right? And the best suited pieces for your program. So, there's a lot to unpack there with what John's saying, and it's good that, the conversation is happening. I think there's a lot of discrimination in sports, just like tons, and it's like, where do you start? it's so spread out, and it's like, I'm not sure how many schools there are in the country, but you got to take it one school at a time. And the fact that, as soon as John, spoke out and called this stuff out, that somebody picked up the phone and decided to call him, it says something. It says that, nobody's been challenged on this before. Nobody's been called out for the lack of representation within the organization. CBC just did a feature on, the amount of minority coaches and minority ADs in the country. And I think for coaches, it's a handful, but for athletic directors, there's only one. So there's a lot of questions we got to ask ourselves as Canadians. I know John's American, but as Canadians, there's a lot of questions we got to ask, because, we look at Canada and we say, oh, this place is way better than America, but, we still have a lot of problems that we haven't addressed within our Canadian systems, including sports. So
it's interesting too, John. You put that post up, and when I put that podcast up, because I know you kind of had the tease of the podcast before, and I was like, y'all are going to be really mad at some of the things I say. And I didn't necessarily get a call or anything, but I did get a little bit of a blowback from some peers being like, oh, maybe you should just stick to talking about sports or talking about pop culture and not get into the political sense of things. And I kind of had that when I had Alex and Donald and Don on. It was a sense of, why are you going down this road? And it was just, again, it's just a sense of, kind of like you had talked about, Alex, is like, you can't be quiet anymore. And we have such an explicit, nice little viewership that we had. And I was happy to have John on to speak his truth. And some people said maybe not to do it because of the position that I hold at state, being the voice of the Trojans and being worried about losing that position. But if that's what's going to come down to, then I'd rather be able to speak a free voice than be able to speak a voice calling basketball at that point.
Yeah,
before you go, that's a really
ahead.
big, a great point you made, is that, with everything going on, two things. One, people are thinking that, you know, you speaking out is you taking a political stance. Well, this is not politics. This is, you know, this is basic human rights, like basic civil rights we're talking about. You know, so if people have a problem with you speaking on these issues, it says so much more about their ideologies, because anybody that looks at something and says that's not right, you know, it's pretty simple. It's black and white. You know, like, you know, like it's literally it's there's no gray area with this, right? So when people are concerned about losing their position based on speaking truth, you know, I think that's an issue. You know, I think that there's a much larger issue to unpack there if, you know, your position at say is in jeopardy because of, you know, you speaking on just the nuances of society and what's going on. You know what I mean? So, like, kudos to you for speaking up, because a lot of people, they're not willing to. You know, a lot of people that work at Starbucks are not willing to speak out. You know, or a lot of people that, you know, have their job, or are even professors that are educated on these matters and know that this stuff is wrong, still refuse to speak out on it because of their own selfish position or their own selfish benefit, you know, because they think that they have something more to lose, right? And I can't fault anybody for that. But the ones that do, you know, don't care about that and are willing to speak out, like, that's what we need. You know, that's exactly what's necessary for these issues that are going on. So I gotta give you a pat on the back for that.
Appreciate it, man. John, what were you saying?
The other point too is, like, people don't want you to get political, but they don't really understand, like, yeah, as Alex said, this really isn't political, and they don't also understand that, like, we're athletes. We still have to go home after this to this situation. We still live in this every day. Just because we represent somebody on the court, or we, you know, we have a great game on the court, it does not mean that I'm not still black.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like, people truly, they don't understand that as, oh, well, we don't really want to talk about this. This is my reality every day.
And for me, a part of it is, you know, I have a nephew who is of Asian descent now. I have a brother-in-law who's Asian, and I want him to grow up in a world where he doesn't have to grow up and be, like, worried about, like, being the color of his skin. I want him just to be, like, a happy kid that gets to, like, live his life being whatever, not be, like, have all those Asian stereotypes or whatever that are probably going to happen to him, or have anything discriminative. So I have that in the back pocket. And it's not something I really share in particular about my life, because it doesn't really matter what he is, but I do want him to grow up in this world. It's where, kind of like that new LeBron book, the I Promise book, just kind of talking about, like, speaking of the issues and just trying to make it better for everybody else. Like, I see it through trying to make it better for my nephew, but trying to make it better for you, John, because you're, you know, you're an awesome dude that I've really gotten to know and appreciate. Getting it better for you, Alex, or any of the brothers or sisters that I've gotten to know, making it better overall for them. Because I've came from this world of so much fucking privilege. And I think John spoke on it so much when we did the last pod that really woke me up, when I was just like, I asked the question that I regretted, but I was thankful for the answer of being like, well, how do someone like I get better? And, you know, some people be like, well, you do this, you read this. And John's like, just fucking listen and educate yourself. Don't keep on asking that shit. Just figure the shit out. And I thought that was, like, the most profound answer of anything, of being like, oh, you know, go read this book or go research this person. It's like, nah, just listen and figure the shit out yourself.
Yeah, that is a huge thing. One of my big issues that I had with Sate calling me is that instantly when they called me, they wanted the black opinion on things. They wanted me to speak out for all black people at the school and make this more of, okay, well, this is John Smith's stance, so I feel like this is possibly what we have to do, versus doing it by committee, versus having representation so we can all have these talks together and feel safe. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to educate myself in a sense. It's like, hey, black man, please expend all of your emotional energy that you have to go through the day with, facing racism every day, and now take your time to educate me without any type of compensation, any type of credit or reward, and take your time to truly educate me on what I need to know about your black experience. which is bullshit. Like when you really look at it, which is truly bullshit. And then like, in one of my biggest issues with talking, I had a conversation with my man, a guy played on my team my first year, is and Alex, Tanner Parrington. I had a conversation with him, and he said all of those little racist things that you hear in the media all the time. He said every single one of them. He said, well, my life's hard. Well, like, my life's hard too, and you don't hear me complaining about it. And I was like, yeah, but your life's not extra hard just from being a color of your skin. You don't have to worry about going to a place, and I hope these people aren't racist. You don't have to worry about going to a country and being like, oh, I hope these people aren't racist. A job interview, walking into the gas station, oh, I hope I don't get any crazy looks or somebody tries me. Like, it's a very different experience, me personally, because I've been jumped by racist white gangs before. I've been jumped. I've been bodily harmed by people who didn't like me, not because they didn't know me, not because they knew me, not because they knew anything of me at all, just because I was black walking down the street. I've been put in handcuffs for being black walking down the street. I've had cops pull guns on me for being black in a car. So it's like, your life's not extra hard when you're going through these situations. Like, and that's the things that people keep saying. It's like, oh, I want equality. Everybody wants equality. I want equity. Now is the time where it's like, okay, we've tried equality and we keep stating it. No, now I want equity. Like, these communities that have been torn up, these communities that have been destroyed by systematic oppression, by all of this racism, like, people need to start putting their goddamn money where their mouth is to build these communities back up.
And I'll let you go in a second, Alex, here. I can't imagine how frustrating it is to being a person of color and seeing what the RNC has coming up here for the people that are going to speak. You have that couple that brought guns out to the BLM rally, or that young dude taunting the indigenous dude at that rally. I can't imagine how, I mean, just for me, it's irritating seeing something like that. These are the people that are going to speak at the RNC when we just had Michelle Obama give this fantastic speech for the DNC. And just seeing like that is like the stuff that you're promoting, of these people that came out with guns, and a young guy that is being blatantly racist to an indigenous group. Like, those are the things that you're promoting. And it really goes like all this stuff that we have had the past 2 months specifically, and everything beforehand. It's like, wow, we really haven't learned anything. And we're going to use this campaign for Trump and for Pence, and we're going to use that racism to promote our candidate.
Think about the blowback. It's another thing. I'll give it to you real quickly, Alex. Think about the blowback. I was just talking to you about this before we started the pod. 8 years of an Obama presidency made white Americans so mad that they voted for a guy who is first of all, who's not a good businessman. Secondly, has said the wildest comments that I've ever heard anyone say in the media and secretly, privately on recorded conversations. Think of if Obama had done that. And right now we're at that point too with Black Lives Matter, that people are so offended by Black Lives Matter because they feel like it's Black people taking a step up, that now we have the blowback of the little boy getting murdered the other day. The little boy got killed the other day, and everybody's like, oh my God, why is nobody posting this? But we're talking about George Floyd. Well, maybe because the dude who murdered the little boy is going straight to prison. Mm-hmm. And nothing, like, he's going straight to prison for the rest of his life. There's no systematic oppression there. There's no oppression there. There's no system in the making. That dude who did that crime is going to face that penalty. Like, easily. What about Breonna Taylor? Like, they went and murdered her in her house, and nothing is going on. Business. Minding your own business. The brother, I forget the other brother's name, who got killed by a white lady police officer who broke into his apartment and killed him. And she got, what did she get? 5 years? She got 5 years for murdering a man in cold blood while he was sitting there chilling in his own house. Come on, man.
Just to add to what John's saying, something this week has come out. The body cam footage from the NBA Finals from Game 6,
Yes,
where
yes. Go ahead.
Masai was accused of assaulting I don't know if it was a security guard, police officer, whatever it was.
He was a security officer, yeah.
Security officer. So when this accusation came out, they weren't trying to release the body cam footage. The police protected this guy and said, we're not releasing this footage. A year later, this footage comes out and shows that, one, Masai was not the aggressor. And two, that, you know, the whole story was there, caught on camera, and we didn't get to have it for a year. So the problem isn't the accusation. The problem is that the group that's sworn to protect and serve decided to band together and protect this guy instead of giving us the facts, giving us the materials and everything, and letting a jury decide for themselves what they see. They were hiding evidence. This is obviously in sports, but this is the problem with the justice system everywhere, is that when this stuff happens, there's no accountability from anybody. You know, the person who was making the accusation or committed the crime is not being held accountable, right? So it basically shows that the law, which is obviously, crime is obviously a social construct, but, you know, the law is only used when it's in the benefit of the state. You know, when it's supposed to benefit, you know, the general population or a certain group of people, it's not. They throw it out the window. They manipulate it and play with it. That's the problem. That's the systemic racism that we see. You know, and it's so ingrained in these institutions. It's like, how do you break this down if, you know, the guys on the inside aren't holding each other accountable?
Well,
right?
like I said, like the Republican convention coming up here, you're blatantly pandering to people that have done racist acts, and you're going to use that as a thing to celebrate your campaign. Like, we already know that campaign is what it is, but you're really doing a tough job of being like, Republicans aren't evil. We're not that bad. And you're literally taking people that have committed blatantly racist acts, and you're using them to promote your campaign. And you have all these rallies and everything, and I felt so frustrated myself. I can't imagine how everybody else felt. It's just the frustration of, they are going to blatantly bring people on stage or Zoom or whatever they're going to do to talk about at the Republican National Convention, and two specific people in this that have done blatant racist acts, but they're going to have them talk about stuff, and they're going to talk about bullshits about their rights and all this shit, when all they've been doing is stealing people's rights and committing hate crimes.
And people don't
really bad.
People don't really speak on it, man. Like, in as far as like the communities go, like, I had this whole conversation the other day when I was speaking about defund the police, and what people, and like, there's certain things that people truly don't understand about, like, the policing that goes on in the Black community. Like, first off, these police who are policing these communities aren't from these communities. Like, in how schools work and taxation works, the taxation process is from where you live. Yeah. So this money that these police are receiving, these tax dollars that these police are receiving, goes to this suburban area where the schools are already solid, and they're policing Black communities where the Black community is seeing none of these dollars, but is seeing nothing but, you know, the blowback in force at all times, but is never seeing any of the money that is being received from these tax dollars. These police don't even live in these communities to tell these people in their communities what they should and should not be doing, which makes absolutely no sense. Like, they'll kill you in your community, then go home to their suburban area and not be affected by what has just happened. Like, luckily, I grew up in a spot. There was a cop. His name is Miguel Stansberry, who was in the gym with us every day. He would come play ball with us. Like, if somebody was doing something wrong, he would tell us to tell him to stop it, because we know what's going on. And it's only a matter of time before we come get him. Not every community is like that. When I got put in handcuffs by the police, when I came back home from junior college. And I had a basketball tournament coming up in like 4 or 5 days. So I was home with my family just for a little bit. I'm running up and down my block on Marvin Road. Actually, no, College Street. I'm running up and down my block, and the cops stop me. They put me in handcuffs, and they tell me that I robbed a gas station. They're like, "You robbed a gas station." And I was like, "No, I didn't." I have my full basketball warm-up gear on. I'm running outside.
It's crazy because I'm pretty sure this has happened to every, like, I have a similar story like this, you know, and
Yeah.
when sorry to interrupt you, but like this story is so common.
This shit is so regular. This is an everyday
so
thing.
regular.
I'm running, bro. I'm running up and down the block. I'm literally running up and down the block. They come get me. They put me in cuffs, and they're like, "Oh, the description is for a black male between 5'6" and 6 foot." And I'm like, "Well, I don't fit that description. I'm 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there on the sidewalk, just waiting. And I'm like, well, I figure they're gonna figure out I didn't do it. And I tell them, I'm like, "Yo, can you guys go? Like, I know Officer Stansberry. I'm just here for the week. I'm from here, but I'm just here for the week, and then I go back to school. I have no reason to rob a gas station." I had to have somebody corroborate that I was not going to be the person out here robbing because they were in a position of power just to be let out of cuffs. They were going to take me and book me for something I did not do. And the gas station was like 4 miles away. They go through my pockets. I have nothing on me. Why am I here? This just seems foolish, and is not, like, you always have to wonder too, like, what is your logic behind this, police officer? Like, truly, like, what is your logic behind this? If a man already has his hands behind his back and is in cuffs, why is your knee on his neck? How is he gonna hurt you? We have to think about that, just in that human perspective. Like, what is really going on that you want to kill me so bad?
Mm-hmm.
This shit is crazy. It's so baffling to me, and people still don't get it. Like, they still will cling to the ways of, like, and you hear this shit all the time. Well, like, these police officers, they're good people. What? I don't give a damn if somebody is a good person. They murdered him. I don't care what you do on your day-to-day. You murdered that man. You have to face repercussions.
Bottom line. Like, the justice system will literally sell black kids to prison all year with their maximum minimums for little tiny offenses. There are brothers I know, I grew up with, who are still in jail for weed. I'm from Washington State. Weed is legal in Washington.
Legal for almost a decade.
It's coming around there. I know brothers who are, I know, like, my homie's dad is doing life in prison for weed. Weed is taxed now.
Ain't that some shit?
You feel me? Weed is big business in the States. It's big business now.
I lived in Spokane.
Still serving his sentence. I
lived in Spokane, John, I think 2014. And at that point, I think it had already been legal for 2-3 years at that point.
I think it got legal in 2012, 2013.
Yeah, so like pretty much around that time, because I remember coming there. That was, everyone had the joke at that time with Denver and Seattle being the Super Bowl, and they both had legalized pot, Colorado and Washington at that point. But point is, it had been legal for a long ass time, for a while, so it's pretty ridiculous that they're still incarcerated.
Funny story. I worked in the weed industry in Washington. I was a driver, and I did sales for this major marijuana company who did, like, I think they did $2 to $3 million a month. Shout out to Artisan. And I remember going to one of the dispensaries where a guy who had been in the game for a very long time, his shirt and his hat said drug war survivor. And like just reading that hat, I just kept thinking about it. I'm like, wow, that is really crazy. Like he really beat the odds of going to prison to be able to open a dispensary when weed had been legalized. But he was the only brother who owned a dispensary. Only brother. Out of all, and I drove all over Washington. All over. It's crazy, man. It's actually insane.
Alex, since we last talked, and I know you've put a lot into this. What have you kind of seen the last 2 months with everything?
I've seen a lot of performative acts.
Because you seemed a lot more positive when we talked last time.
Absolutely, and I'm still very positive, but the problem is that the progress from us is like when we see the results, like for example, like the defunding. Edmonton has defunded 11 million from the police over 2 years. For some people that seems like a win. For someone like me that understands, where the money is going, where the money is coming from, 11 million is nothing, right? So a lot of the symbolic victories that we've been getting are just that, symbolic. Like it's very performative. It's not impactful, right? So although it may seem like a lot of progress has been made, we're still clawing and scratching because there hasn't been any real change. And it's funny because I admit when I'm wrong. And last time I came on here, and me and the other gentleman that was on, I forget his name. Don. Yeah, Don. We had a debate, and I was saying education, and he was talking about revolution. And I actually spoke with a gentleman that served in Vietnam, and he was telling me about the civil rights movement when Ali refused to go to war. And this was pretty recent. It was about maybe a month ago when I was in Calgary, and he obviously has seen this. He's seen the movement 50 years ago, and he said people are mad, but at this point it's time to take action. History has shown us that the countries that revolt and take freedom into their own hands are the ones that see the change. Will there be, violence? Yeah. Will there be a lot of, casualties of war? Yeah. But those are all transitional periods. We're seeing a lot of countries go through those transitional periods. And yeah, a lot of lives are lost and people are getting hurt and countries are pretty much getting destroyed, but it's all in the name of something better coming out on the other end of it. So the last time I was here, I was really on the stance of non-violence, but after that I went and I did my own research and had some conversations. And even when MLK was finally when he was assassinated, the last month of his life, when he started having a lot of discourse with Malcolm X, he started to realize that the violence was necessary, the rioting was necessary, because when you peacefully protest, it's so easy to be dismissed. Edmonton had a protest where 15,000 people showed up, and that's where my at that protest is when I had that epiphany, is because, I showed up and, helping put it together and stuff. And I realized that this is a lot of kumbaya and not enough action. You know what I'm saying? So, my father was in the Iranian Revolution. So I hear stories about, strapping up and going to take freedom all the time. And, you know, history is on the side of the revolutionaries, the ones who stand up and say, you know, we're fed up. You know, as black people are probably the most passive group of people ever of all time, you know, considering all the things that have been done and all the, you know, black people built America, you know. So yeah, I have had an epiphany, and it's a tough thing to confront when, you know, up until now I've been so I've quadrupled down on education. I still think education is very important, but I think it needs to be tied in with you know, tangible action, you know. So
Super, man. That's, oh my God, you spoke it and hit the nail on the head with that one, because people don't realize that this is like us as black people, and like me being black and American, they don't understand that we are at war. This is war right now, and the language of the oppressor is used to pacify you. Like, yeah. People don't understand that. They don't know the history of the Bible that they gave the slaves. Yeah. Like they literally gave slaves a whole different Bible saying, turn the other cheek, and obey your master so that you wouldn't revolt. They did that. They used even the way that people use Dr. King now. They use him to pacify the masses. Well, Dr. King wouldn't have liked it if, you know, you guys were rioting and breaking buildings and stuff like that. And I was just like, well, if you really look at the history of America and you go to the American Revolution against the British, these motherfuckers rioted over taxes on tea.
Yeah.
Like the Boston Tea Party is like, I feel like nobody actually like really pays attention. And then they're mad because some windows at some buildings got broken and a building got set on fire. I don't get it. People are getting murdered. That was over extra taxation.
But how dare you rob that Foot Locker?
Exactly. How dare you rob that Foot Locker? Or how dare you go with the looting? And I've had some of my people who were my past friends, white friends, talking about, well, the rioting is just wrong. And what about these businesses? And it's just like, these businesses have insurance. They wouldn't be able to be in those big buildings without insurance. These buildings will be rebuilt. This man will never get his life back. This woman will never get their life back. Like, people don't understand, like, when I go home, the amount of fear there is when you see the police. Because they will just go fuck with you if they're bored.
They do that. They do. Even in Toronto, they do the same thing. They will fuck with you just because they can.
What are you up to? Where are you going? Around? Like, motherfucker, why should I tell you where I'm going? Where is it in the law that I have to tell the police where I'm going? Where is it in the law if I've been stopped for no reason that I have to show the police my ID? I don't. Why are you stopping me? Cops, like, and this is, and it ties into the media too. It ties into the media, and it ties into what we see in cops, like even on movies. Everybody loves a little buddy cop film, you know what I mean? Everybody loves fucking Lethal Weapon. Everybody loves a buddy cop flick. But when you really look at it, how many laws that they're breaking, just busting into people's houses, interrogating people, whooping their ass, going in there, guns a-blazing, like, this is all highly illegal. Like, we look at superheroes, we're like, oh my God, yeah, Batman. Batman's a fucking terrorist.
There's an SNL skit on that with Chance.
I thought he just had his own mental health issues, but we can call him terrorist too.
Like, but seriously though, like, let's really look at it. What are you doing out there in that costume, old man? Why are you patrolling the hood in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Beating people up with no due process. Like,
the media has so much to do with it. And, you know, now that we're at a point where, this podcast is dematerialized, it's decentralized, and, you know, you're able to speak truth with no, you can't get canceled. You know what I mean? Yeah, you might, yeah, maybe your job might be on the line, but your platform can't get canceled, you know, because you own it, you know, and with more decentralization in our media, with more freedom and agency to speak on these issues, we actually have much more power to bring awareness to these issues and actually wake people up, right? You know, with the whole George Floyd thing, why it rang, you know, vibrations throughout the world was because the world had stopped. You know, COVID had stopped the world. And whatever it was that you did with your day to day up until that point, people realized that did not matter, right? What really mattered was what they saw is happening in America, which they realized is still happening on a day-to-day basis. You know, so my you know, I still have a very, very positive outlook on the changes we can make. I just think we need to be much more aggressive as opposed to passive aggressive. I think, you know, for some people might feel a little discouraged of how things have played out, but I look at it like, you know, hey, Los Angeles defunded what, 150 million in the police department? You know, that's a substantial amount of money. And, you know, when we say defund, I don't say take the power completely away from the police, but I think there needs to be some reform, a lot of reform, a lot of auditing. Like, what are we paying? What are taxes paying these departments to do? And what are you doing with the money? You know, you look at the United Kingdom, police there don't have guns. They have batons. They have tasers. They have riot shields, right? And their murder rate is pretty low. You know, the worst things that happen in the UK are stabbings, you know. So when you look at these other countries and how they take law and how they deal with, you know, order and regulation, you know, we have to ask a lot of questions and say, okay, well, do police need armored vehicles? Do police need assault rifles at festivals? You know, do we need 4 cop cars to stop one, you know, person that's having a bad day with mental health issues? You know, these are the questions we need to ask. We unpack, you know, the anecdotal stories, right? As opposed to looking at the statistics, you know, because you talk to any, you know, conservative or Republican, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to bring up the stats, right? And the problem with stats, and I say this in basketball all the time, and I use Carmelo Anthony as a perfect example, is stats don't tell the whole story. You know, you can leave so much out with stats. You can manipulate it to exactly fit the narrative you're trying to portray, which we've seen. You know, we've seen it. We've seen, you know, how the media takes the stats. We've seen how the NBA, Carmelo didn't have a job for a year because of the stats and narrative. You know, it's the same thing with these issues, right? What the narrative, right? So people will, when we talk about these issues, people will look at us like we're crazy. But, you know, it's not based on stats. It's based on anecdotal experiences. If John says he can't walk around comfortably in his neighborhood, that's an issue. You know, if I am driving and my ass gets tight when a police officer pulls up beside me, that's a problem. You know, it's not about, you know, just white people anymore. White people are no longer the majority, right? Our countries are filled with different groups of people that come from all different backgrounds. So, you know, we got to figure out how we're going to make this a level playing field for everyone and make everybody feel safe and make everybody feel like, you know, they have the best opportunity to make it in this country, right? But before we do that, we have a lot of things to fix on the back end. And you know, you want to talk about reparations, you want to talk about, there's so many ways we can tackle this. You know, it's like, where do we start? But it starts with getting the right people in power. You know, I think the US is a third world country that just looks like a first world country, because you look up there and now people have to go and vote and they basically have to choose the lesser of two evils. That's not fair. You look at the politics in Canada, same thing. If people voted for exactly who they wanted, and instead of saying, oh, well, it's only a two-party race now, there's no point in voting for third person. No, if people actually voted for who they wanted, things we change, but people are sheep. That's the problem. People are sheep. Nobody has a brain for themselves. Nobody can sit there and say, look at things critically and say, this isn't right. That's the real issue. It's like the individual level is where it starts. And when people can start realizing that, this stuff is broken, that we can come to a consensus, which right now I think is what we've got is people are at a consensus. Now we can say, okay, we need to really take this stuff back. Like, we need to take it. So
most definitely, man. It's like when you really look at racism and racists in general, what you start to realize is like they're really just intellectual cowards. Yeah. Because they won't look at the facts, the stats, and be like, oh, this is actually what's happening. They'll just demonize a whole ethnicity of people. And it's just like you're not based in facts or logic at all. You just want to believe what you believe. And instead of just coming out and saying, I don't like Black people, I don't like these people of color, they'll make up all of these bogus things, like in the media, for example, like Black on Black crime. That's a proximity issue that people don't really understand. Black people do not commit more crimes per capita than white people do. And Black people make up 13% of the country, but make up 40% of the prison population. There's an issue there.
It's moral panic, over-policing, politics of representation. There's so many things that contribute to the over-policing and the mass incarceration of minorities. And, we could be here for hours. I could fucking write you probably a 30-page paper on it too. But it's so many issues, and you have to start. It's like, where do you start? At this point, the easiest thing to do is, okay, everybody gather up. Let's go do something, So, a lot of people are talking still about protesting, and I don't know. It's for me, it's a representation issue also.
There's protests still going on in Seattle right now.
Yeah.
Like, there's protests still going on in major cities right now, and people are just being taken to jail. You saw it in Oregon. Like, people are just out there. They're not identifying themselves with their badges, and they're just putting people in the back of trucks. Another big issue, and I think could be like one of the starting off points, especially, is the predatory policing system. Like, these dudes have quotas that they have to hit. Like a sales job. If you don't issue this many tickets in a month, there's a problem. If you're not making this many collars a month, then there's a problem. And because the Black community is so underfunded and underrepresented, they go there first.
Yeah.
You don't see any of this shit happening in the suburbs. You don't see any of that shit. But because the underrepresentation and the underfunding, they just sit there and they're predatory. It's like dropping 1,000 goldfish in the tank with 12 piranhas. They're about to eat, dog. They're about to eat. Like, and that's really what's going on, and that's really what we're seeing. And now with the media and what's been going on in the media, especially with these higher upper echelon rich motherfuckers being exposed for their human trafficking and child rape, like, that even isn't even heavily in the media as much as it should be. Like, when you look at what's going on, oh, it's the Democrat National Convention, it's the Republican National Convention, but there's still riots going on in the middle of these streets, and people aren't talking about it. This stuff in Seattle right now isn't even on the news in Seattle. People aren't talking about it because now it's like, oh, it's a flash in the pan. okay, we'll hang on this for 2 weeks, but now this story's old.
Well, I can tell you as someone in media, you only go with it when it's sexy, right? You don't go with this stuff. Even COVID stuff is kind of chilled unless it like gets to a spike. But other like COVID stuff with the people in the hospital, the people having secondary issues and stuff is like, well, it's not really a sexy story or it's not a fluff story, so we're not going to run with it. You always kind of run with the thing that's going to get the most bites. And at first, when the protests were happening, people were breaking windows and rioting. It's like, oh, well, that's going to get people to want to watch it because it's the, really as humanity, we love to see the anarchy as much as anything. And it wasn't even as much as watching the protests to see the revolution side of it as it was to see the anarchy. We're destined to go see the burn, the fire. We're going to draw this up to the fire. And that's being into that side of media. It's always draw to, well, what's the fire? You kind of, and I were talking about it with, in relations to somewhat of the NBA today. It's like the Bucks lose and the Lakers lose. Well, we're not going to talk about this Bucks loss because who gives a shit? We're going to talk about the Lakers as the sexy team. It's like, well, yeah, Seattle still has protests going on, but is there as much of a fire there? Well, not really for us to report. We could talk about these things, but yeah, general viewership isn't going to give a fuck about that, even though it's more important. So let's go find something more sexy or something more fear-mongering to talk about.
And I hate that us in the Black community are now the punk ass Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
That's trash.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Sad.
It's big facts. Like, it's crazy to see. Like, it's crazy to watch because if you're just listening to the media, luckily, like my sister's a lawyer in Seattle and she does public defender work, and so I know exactly what's going on in Seattle right now. Versus like if I was just to watch the news and me not being home, if I was just to watch the news, I would have no goddamn idea what's going on.
It's weird over there too, John. I was there in December and City Hall got attacked. We were going to a Seahawks game and a prisoner got out or something. And I still to this day, it was not covered on the news. I still don't know what the fuck happened, but the police were out there with guns and shit. And there's just a bunch of people walking to the Seahawks game downtown and never reported it. What the fuck happened? And I was like, this has got to be something that's definitely reported on the news and not talked about at all.
Oh no, because it doesn't push what they need to be said.
And they're just like, oh, someone got loose. And it's but there's got to be more than just someone got loose. You have armored cars here and there's police surrounding the building. We were thinking this was like someone got held up or something. They're like, nah, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay.
It's the same thing with, all right, so I'm pretty sure it was in Pennsylvania. It was in Pennsylvania where the judges who got convicted for selling little black boys to prison.
No media coverage.
Zero media coverage. Zero. You know how I found out about it? Facebook. I saw I saw an article pop up on Facebook that one of my friends who lives on the East Coast posted. And so I read it. I read the article and then I continued to do research. And I was like, oh, well, this is super real. The CIA got convicted in civil court for killing Martin Luther King. Nobody talks about that.
They didn't actually convict the CIA, but they did do another investigation.
Yeah, they did another investigation but they had to pay. They lost the case in civil court.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody in the government had to come out of money for this, and there's no news coverage. And it's and you're sitting there, you're thinking about oh, well, the hood's so bad and stuff because you always see it in the media. Oh, well, the Black community's so bad. There's all these shootings in Chicago. And it's
the problem is people will literally think that they're informed because they watch the news. That's the problem. People think they're informed. People think they're up on everything because they watch the news. And, that's why if you don't curate your own news feed and you don't look into everything that's going on yourself and do your own due diligence, you're not informed because you're going to miss a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So, yeah. It's
hey, they changed the color of Band-Aids and Aunt Jemima's gone.
Performative, man. Performative.
It
it's all
killed
performative.
you. It's oh yeah, we're gonna, you know what I mean? We're gonna put social justice messages on the back of the jerseys, but how much are you putting funding into the Black community? Are you putting funding into these communities? Are you uplifting these communities and bolstering them, or are you just continuously profiting off of these communities?
Yeah, that was my
Well,
last
the NBA
question
is
for you
probably the
guys.
leader.
Is your thoughts on the NBA stuff? That was my last question of how the NBA's handled this.
I think, with political issues and social justice issues, the NBA is the leader in all of sports organizations. So
Not
I
the
do
NHL?
commend them for that. I think, they do a good job of speaking on things and making adjustments for things. But obviously, we do want more. And last time I was on here, my argument for Don was that, we can't expect athletes to be, activists, because they're not qualified for that stuff. But when an organization like the NBA does take it upon themselves to bring awareness to these issues, that is, I look at that is a positive, because a lot of organizations have stayed quiet. So the NBA has led in that, that conversation. And I think they committed a certain amount of money. I think it was 300 mil over 10 years.
Something like that,
community
yeah.
initiative.
True Holiday gave his salary. I was really committed. True Holiday, he's done a great job with it. Obviously, Bromwell's vote stuff has been really good. Dwight gave his salary as well. I thought Drew really led the mark, though. Him and his wife have just done so much good stuff with everything they've led.
And that's that's all you can do. Yeah, Drew Holiday. I know. And that's all you can do. Like they're trying. They're not activists. They're not qualified. So when they're doing stuff like that, like giving their salary, that's what they can do. We don't expect them. I don't expect any athlete, any musician to come up there and be an activist. But I do expect them to bring the awareness and move the tides so that, the individuals that, on the front line that can make a change, wake up and do make change, by being aware of what's going on. So I do commend the NBA for being, bringing the discussion to the forefront. Because now you're always going to be reminded when you're watching, you see the back of somebody's jersey and it says, Black Lives Matter, or, equality, or group economics, or peace, or whatever it says. It's better than nothing. It's better than all the other leagues, and that's the standard you have to hold the NBA to, is how do they compare to the other leagues, so.
Yeah, before you go, John, it did frustrate me with the NHL. Like, I liked everything Matt Dumba did with the Wild. I thought he did some good stuff. And then, none of the players were kneeling. And then Eric Trump obviously came out with his tweet about like commending them. I'm like, y'all, you got to be better than this. You got to kneel. And then when I saw Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn kneel with Ryan Reeves, I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know why everybody else wasn't doing it. But then you kind of was like when Jerry Jones did the bullshit 2 years ago. It's like, well, I'm just doing it to do it. Because now Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn aren't kneeling anymore. It's like, well, we're just doing it to, just do it and be with Ryan Reeves and for a photo op. It kind of feels like. It doesn't feel like it was any more than that because Seguin and Benn aren't kneeling anymore and no NHL player is kneeling. So it was like, okay, well, I know you guys do these things at the half of like honoring like someone in the Black community, which is nice, but I don't think they're taking the extra step that they really need to. And I don't think baseball's done a good job either. NBA, has done a lot of good actions. I feel like the NHL is like half in, but not all the way in that they need to be. And it would have been very curious if PK was playing with him being the prominent Black athlete in the sport. Ryan Reeves isn't as known. Matt Dumba is not as known, but PK is one of the more globally known Black athletes in hockey. And it would have been interesting if PK would have that. He's done this talk on his podcast about everything, and you can get into the whole the whole thing of the racism in hockey. We've done 3 podcasts on it already. But I was very disappointed. When I saw Seguin and Ben do it, I'm like, sweet, I'm glad y'all are kneeling. But keep that going. Keep the face going because maybe everyone else will follow suit with you kneeling. But it was just kind of the one game, and it was unfortunate with that. And everything else the NBA's done, having it on the courts and everything, it's been great. And the last thing I'll say about this before I let you go, John, is all these politicians and everyone's like, oh, the ratings are down because of Black Lives Matter. The ratings aren't down. The thing that people don't understand is maybe the television ratings have taken a little bit of a deep, but the NBA is different how it's broadcasted now. You have people that are going to the illegal feeds, first of all, which we're not accounting for, and the people that watch on League Pass, which is a lot of NBA people that watch on League Pass, they're not accounting for those numbers. They're just accounting for the television ratings. So you can be like, oh, the ratings are down or whatever, but they're not down. They're just a little bit lower on the actual television ratings because people dispersing them through League Pass and whatever. And so it's not a matter of Black Lives Matter and dipping it down.
No, it's the media narratives, right? They also feed into those narratives, right? You know, politicians always feed into those narratives, and you know, like I said, the stats will lie to you, right? The stats will always lie to you if you're looking for an explanation, you know. So, yeah.
Now, hockey has forever been super racist.
Yep.
It's forever been super racist. I didn't expect anything from them to begin with.
No, I didn't either. When I saw the Neil icon, I got some hope on it. I'm like, okay, cool. Good for Sagan and Ben that helped Ryan Reeves with that. And then after that, it was just kind of like, yeah, we're back to normal, which is kind of like what the NFL did a few years ago. It was like, everyone's going to kneel. Here's Jerry Jones. And then they just got back to normal. And it was like, well, that was all bullshit.
Yeah, man. Fuck Jerry Jones. That dude was so trash. Like, and you've seen with these college football coaches too, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me you guys have seen that.
Oh, yeah.
These damn college football coaches who are suddenly wouldn't stand for anything for BLM, but so mad that their season's not going to be on because they're like, well, we have to save these kids from these communities where these police are and all this predatory shit is happening, but we won't say anything about Black Lives Matter, but we'll talk about our season and how we profit off the backs of these kids while they don't get paid at all. Gosh, man, it's trash. Like these guys are clowns.
Yeah, it's and the NFL, obviously, I'm interested to see where they go with it. I mean, Cap is still out of the league, which is, I guess I thought like there would be some momentum towards him potentially getting a contract. But I mean, look, with everything with COVID, there's going to be a lot of opening for players to have a chance. So maybe he will, but I am a little bit surprised that Cap didn't even get a backup job.
It has nothing to do with his ability. It has everything.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
It's just, and now because everybody's scared of him because it's like who are these NFL owners voting for? Who are they buddies with? You know what I mean? Like even with the Drew Brees shit, like who was he hanging out with? Trump?
Well, we know Belichick and Brady are. You know where they are.
Yeah.
I mean, even like the Jaguars owner, Tony Khan, I know they've got a lot of good press because they have like a fun wrestling company right now that people like, and it's a rival to WWE. But the thing people need to remember with the Khans, and they're going to be the first to really have full-out stadiums during COVID, they don't lose track of where the Khans were and some of the stuff that Shad Khan and Tony Khan have stood with some of the stuff located to Trump. And you can see why certain players like Jalen Ramsey and stuff have led frustrations around being with that organization.
The NFL is still a plantation at the end of the day. So
super plantation.
I'd rather at least someone be honest, like Derek Carr, when he didn't stand and he paid the price for it and then said, I learned. Like, he's my quarterback, but he didn't stand and he's like, well, like I stand for God and all that kind of stuff, kind of what Jonathan Isaac was saying, which I still don't totally understand the rationale behind that. But at least he, guys, I kind of had some rationale for what it did, but he took that situation and learned from it, and now he's going to obviously kneel with his teammates. But I still don't understand the rationale between that or Jonathan Isaac.
I'm so tired of people bringing God into this.
Yeah.
I am so tired of it because this is the most dismissive thing ever. Well, I just think we have to love everybody. Well, I just think the cops should shoot you in the face instead of a brother, and then maybe your family will understand.
You guys heard the Jonathan Isaac thing. Hey, did it make any sense to you what his reason was for standing?
Not at all.
You mean Orlando, right?
Sorry?
Orlando player?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not like he's a brother. He could choose his own right in which to protest because when you're a brother and you protest this way, you're wrong. You protest that way, you're wrong. I did find the issue in his lack of solidarity.
He didn't wear the shirt.
Like, I find the issue
Yeah, he
with
didn't wear a shirt either.
I think the only outlanders were him and Miles Leonard, which I don't think many people were surprised for Miles Leonard. So,
Well,
people, my issue with it is people think it's this utter disrespect to the flag. And it's like, when you really look at it, the flag, American flag, is really looked as a symbol of oppression all over the world. I mean, you could, talk to Iraq. You know what I mean? Like, we can really have these conversations. Like, you know what I mean? It's really looked at as a symbol of oppression, and people think it's a representation of these fallen heroes, and it's just not.
I think people get too much into that. Even the Mount Rushmore thing, like, I didn't know about the oppression and stuff. I think you were enlightening me up to it before the stuff really started escalating before 4th of July, John. You were the one that was telling me about Mount Rushmore. And then it's like, okay, shit, this is not what we used to kind of look and think what we was, and you learn from that. I think kind of my parting words before here, for me, being a white guy of privilege, I think the one thing I've learned is just learn and get better. I've made mistakes in the past. I've probably said things that were stupid in the past, but I'm learning, getting better with everything. And I think that's the main thing that anyone really can do.
just take accountability for it, right? As long as you can have that conversation with yourself and say, okay, it's up to me and nobody else. That's where it starts. So
yeah. Parting words from y'all.
Shout out to all my guys over at the United Black and Indigenous Athletic Association, creating these charters and trying to create change. Shout out to my sister back in Seattle doing all the work with public defense and helping all these communities of color and minorities to get good representation.
Alex?
Well, we're always talking about this stuff on the Gifted Gab. So,
check
if
it
you
out.
guys feel, come check us out. And just it's on us as individuals, right? We have to take the accountability into our own hands to get educated on this stuff. And just like you were saying, just listen. It's not really, there's not one book. There's not, one article. There's not one movie. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there, and it's really on you to go out and figure it out for yourself. So you can either, contribute to making the change, or you can let it pass by you. And when your kids ask you, in the future, what your stance was on all this, you can be honest with them and let them know. So, yeah, that's really it.
All right. Thanks, both of you, for coming on. I always appreciate when both of y'all come on. Until next time, everyone, cheers and enjoy the day.